I want to apologize ahead of time before I even start this recording because I just have a feeling it's going to seem like I'm a bunch of different places at the same time. So I'm going to try my best to state, kind of a main theme, and hopefully everything that I say comes back to that. I'd like to say that things are... I hear a lot of media outlets and people are speaking about this is the year of truth, where there are a lot of things that are coming out. And I am not in a traditional sense a religious person, but I do believe in the idea, and to me I believe it's a fact, that there is order amidst what we are believing to see and characterize as chaos. I don't think that things happen accidentally. I don't believe that we were created out of chaos. And ultimately, when you look up the definition of a lot of the terms that I'm speaking on, because that was my strategy before I started to have this conversation, because I wanted to make sure that the words that I was using and the meaning of those words coincided, with how I was interpreting them. And some of these things are based off of perspective. A lot of them are based off of perspective and how you characterize whatever it is that you're experiencing or witnessing. But back to the point of this being a time of truth telling. I don't believe that this is necessarily the year of it. I believe that this is just the degree of revelation, and I hate to, not that I hate to use that term, but I don't want to give this conversation the wrong type of tone, and not that religion or religious scripture or theology is the wrong type of tone, but I don't want to appear to come from a place that's not genuine or authentic to what I believe. So when I speak when I talk about revelation, I'm simply speaking at this point of the definition, and which is the act of revealing something that was secret to view, something that was once seen as hidden, and displaying it, so it's no longer a secret. A truth. And the only difference between that and just a straight definition versus the religious form of revelation is that they characterize the truth as a divine truth, and divine means of God or of a higher power. So within the context of what I believe, again, my faith belongs to me. I'm not, I don't have any opinion on anyone else's. I don't even really have an opinion on mine. It's just what I feel. I feel like a lot of religion, save for the cultural influence, I believe that it's based in the same ideals. They believe the same things happened, or the description may be different, but I think the idea of the beginning, the middle, and the end, or actually the beginning, the middle, the end, and recreation, I think all of those things are characterized in many different religions. And I believe that the conversation, the thing that's important about the conversation is just recognizing what's actually happening. And there's some real stuff happening. And unfortunately, I think that a lot of people get lost in the details and are missing the bigger picture. There are things that we as humans recognize as truths and attempt to defy. I think there's a lot of things that are happening that if you were to read religious texts or the encyclopedia and look at it from a general perspective versus getting lost in the tint of the message, the actual shade of where it's coming from, or what the description is based in, and just look at it for what it is. If you say the life cycle, I relate the higher power, the Almighty, God, Allah, whatever, and again, I don't particularly study these religions, so I'm just saying my interpretation of what these names embody is the actual order that is responsible for the experience that we're having. Too many things that are happening or that exist with purpose. There is a cycle, there is a balance within nature. And when you say divine, it's almost like we don't understand how it happened that way. It just is that way, and it works. And sometimes you don't really have to understand it. You just need to walk in the idea that this is how it's supposed to be. I think the difficult part for people is when they don't agree with what's happening and they want to characterize it in a way where it's not meant to be that way, right? But for me, my interpretation of the cycle requires a creation, or a birth, or coming to existence, and then there's a cycle of growth to maturity, and then peak, and then decline and deterioration until you're no longer in a certain form. You no longer serve a purpose, or your purpose changes until you are there simply to fertilize and bring in and be a source for the renewal and the rebirth. And I think that cycle is described in multiple different modalities, different ways, but the same ideas. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end to the beginning, and an end and a new beginning. Like, it's a constant cycle, and there's so many examples within this existence that we're having, this universe, this energy that we're having. It's cyclical. And even the things that we feel aren't natural are purposeful, and they have a place in that cycle. And honestly, what I believe is, when people are having conversations, and I'm talking about humans at this point, when they're having conversations and there's judgment, or there is characterization of anything, right? I think the conflict sometimes comes from lack of acknowledgement of the things that are actually happening, lack of understanding of the things that are actually happening, and then disagreeing with the things that are actually happening, and the connotation or the place within the cycle that a person holds. Fear of where you are or where you're headed, coveting the position that you're in and never wanting it to change, or never embracing the fact that it's going to change, causes behaviors, that, unfortunately, I think are relegated to humans, because we are the ones that actually act on free will naturally. Like, outside of instinct, there are a lot of things that we do to defy the natural order of things, our existence currently. And even speaking that, right? Is it the natural order for us to defy the natural order? Like, it seems as if it falls in line with the decay or the deterioration of this particular iteration of energy and reality. Like, society is supposed to decline to the point where it implodes, deteriorates on itself, so a new life cycle can begin. And I apologize ahead of time, because I understand that some of the things that I'm about to say may actually come across, offensive. But unfortunately, I don't mean it in an offensive way. So I'm trying to give context to what I mean and where I'm taking this as I'm actually having the conversation. And what I mean by legitimizing due to a fear of being of death, or legitimizing when it comes to in response to a fear of not being acceptable or not being deemed worthy of existence, or not being deemed to be natural. Human beings tend to create paradigms to justify and legitimize the existence of whatever construct is being presented. And it's unfortunate, right? It's unfortunate because we see in nature that certain things just have to happen. It's a balance, and we romanticize it with terms like the circle of life, and we want to give meaning as kids growing up when you're seeing, your animal is born and then it lives and then it dies and then it goes into the dirt and it fertilizes, and then the dirt makes plants that other animals that are born are able to eat to grow up and be strong. So there's, the loss is not as hurtful. But I think the intent of the story or the intent of the tactic is noble, but I think ultimately it does a disservice because I think there's a lack of understanding, because the conversation, it's almost like if we're having a conversation about something, if it's not romantic, then it's offensive. If it's not enchanting, if it's not something that somebody can actually attach a good emotion to, even if it's truthful, if you can't attach a good emotion to it or love to it, then if it's negative, then it's offensive and it's false. And then we're going to try to look for ways to legitimize that, to make someone say, yeah, you should love this because it is. And my thought process is more in the space of it's all part of the process. It's all necessary. And I'm not afraid of speaking on it. It's almost like not being afraid of my own mortality. This ecosystem that we're in, this reality that we're in has mortality. There is energy. There is life. It's funny how, people can champion and have conversations about a pregnant mother and how you need to not be stressed as a mother because that energy can literally be transferred to the fetus, right? They can speak about that, but then in another arena, when you talk about energy transfer and stress and emotion causing issues, or causing mental issues in adults, in young people, there's a conversation where that's debunked because it's not romantic, it's not positive, it's not, it's not something that people can get behind with any type of nobility, right? It's not the popular opinion. It doesn't fit a narrative that's romantic to a majority of people, and it sucks because a lot of times we're talking about the same phenomena in different arenas and having totally different reactions to it, and we actually try to explain away the contradiction, and I just come from a place where I attempt to look at the big picture and really become comfortable with things are what they really are. So let me speak about something else specifically. And I don't want to say alternative lifestyles. Let's say the LGBTQ community, like homosexuality, transgender, things of that nature. And I don't say things of that nature. People who are and feel that is their say lifestyle choice, because I'm trying to figure out the correct way. A person that is attracted to someone of the same sex, or a person that does identify as an opposite, differently than their birth, their gender at birth. Even people who genetically are intersex, that their genetic makeup is that of male and female, and the expression of that is similar. So there's I think a lot of the thought process and the advocacy is to legitimize or to make people, or to educate people to understand that this is not an anomaly. It's a legitimate, like people that in nature there's homosexuality. So, and people are natural. So in people there's homosexuality, and all of these things, they exist, right? And so my conversation with anyone in within that text and the different issues, I'm in the medical field, so I definitely encounter, situations where, we're going through training, sensitivity training, learning how to give equal and proper care and specific care to individuals within that population, or within our population, with those who identify that way. That those things are natural and legitimate, and they should be seen and treated and felt at just as much as what we perceive to be normal, right? My thought process is different. Life is life beyond me comes from me having intercourse with my wife, or intercourse with a woman, and she is able to carry a baby that is birthed, and now our genetic and our life force is carried on past our existence. And within the animal kingdom, that's how it is, right? Someone has a place to incubate life after. I think that's called progenesis. There's a mechanism to incubate. There's a mechanism to actually bring two entities together to create a new life. There's a mechanism to incubate that and grow it till it can exist outside of that incubation mechanism on its own and carry on as its own being or its own life force, right? So if I'm talking about the bigger picture of the life cycle of existence, you know, in a lot of religious texts similar to the beginning, which is Genesis, and Revelations, which would be the end leading into, or Exodus leading into Genesis again, that cycle, at a certain point, reproduction would have to almost stop, whether it was by a natural disaster, meaning, life ceased to exist because there was a huge fire or a huge flood or a meteor hit the, extinction level event happened, or naturally we, birth, recreation slowed down, right? So there's a lot of ways that this cycle can happen. There's a lot of ways that I believe that it is happening. But because I believe that it's part of the cycle, it's as natural to me as anything else. Like, I don't think my body is not betraying me because it's getting old. It's just getting old, and that's what's happening. It's preparing for its new role in its new place. And that new role and new place means that I'm not vibrant in the way that I was when I was sustaining my own life force. I'm going to be vibrant and nutrient to the life force that I'm going to help bring forth anew. So the decay or the deterioration of me is divine. It is necessary. It is important. It is legitimate. And it's nothing to be, there's nothing negative about it. Now, personally, it's painful. It's not what I want to experience, but I think that's a huge problem, is that, when things are supposed to go a certain way, but they don't feel good, we tend to we instinctually like, okay, we're going to fight against that. Nobody's going to just lay down and die. The mentality is we're not going to just, okay, let's stop breathing. I mean, there may be a certain point where people accept where they're at medically, and they're like, okay, I'm tired, I'm going to rest. But until that point, for the most part, people are like trying to defy the deterioration, the thing that's happening naturally. And deterioration, again, even the connotation of that word, I think, is what makes people feel offended or feel some type of way when you have these kind of conversations. Like, realistically, while two men are having intercourse, neither one of them have a uterus. You can't make a baby with two men, two biological men. And again, like, they don't have the anatomy to create a child. So as long as if that becomes predominant, then there are going to be less births, and less people are getting impregnated artificially. You know what I'm saying? Like, this just is what it is. Like, it's not, I don't know why that should be offensive. It shouldn't be offensive. Like, if that's the mechanism that you hold in this fabric of existence that we're talking about, then that means you are ordered, you are required, you are part of the cycle. And it means that you're important, because without you, a genesis cannot happen. Without a decline, there cannot be a rebirth. And again, like I said, I think it's the connotation, it's people's personal reaction to the words that are used, to, just like people are afraid of death, right? They're afraid of what death means, right? But they're not looking at it like death is a part of life. Death brings new life. They can't find the romance in death, you know, in most certain terms. They can't find the romanticism in it. So it's given a negative connotation. And again, therefore we try to defy it. So you see unnatural shit happening, you know? And that's just one part. You know, I can speak about the things that are spoken about in religious texts when it comes to, again, existence, what I call life, this energy, the universe. People have an idea in their head of what's mystical and what's magical and what's a miracle and all of those things. But realistically, in my opinion, what I feel is like it's all miraculous. The fact that I go to sleep, get that close to dying, and then wake up again is a fucking miracle every day. And that's why I'm thankful every day. Like, I think we need to stop, we need to stop putting so much sauce on it and just like call shit what it is. You know, when religious texts talk about people having visions and you know, seeing things and seeing the world come to an end and what does it look like and all of these certain things. And we believe that these visions and these are coming from these mystics, these, you know, these people who are, you know, somehow in some way called upon and enlightened in a way, and they have a certain appearance, right? But and when I say an appearance, like an appearance where they seem to be very much connected spiritually, and what that looks like, if someone were to draw or say, you know, hey, illustrate or describe what you think a person, you know, that is connected to, that would have a vision or have a revelation, what would that person look like? Or how would they behave? How would they talk? Right? But in my eyes, when you see creatives that are actually tapped in to an energy source in a way where they're actually able to illustrate, whether it's through words, through pictures, through any type of artistic expression, a picture of what is to come or what type of reality is on the verge. You know, when you see I don't know how old the Terminator is. I think the first Terminator came out in the 80s. Like, how many of those concepts at that time that didn't exist are actually real right now? We're in the age where AI is about to be a thing. Now, in those movies, AI signaled the end of humanity. What are we talking about? Like, you know what I'm saying? You're seeing things that are signaling the end of an existence. You know, we're on the backside. That's what it feels like. That's what it seems like. And this is me and my understanding of what I'm witnessing. I don't know when. I can't say, you know, I don't think there's any, like, you're not going to champion me because I can't give an actual date or anything like that. I'm just saying that there are people who are tapped in, who are giving out information on where we're headed. And I just think it's foolish not to listen to them because of who we think they are, and do we think that they're qualified to tell us? It's like, what are you seeing? You know what I'm saying? There's a movie that I went to see. It came out last year called Babylon, talking about Hollywood and all the crazy shit that happens. I don't know how many different celebrities you have to see go quote unquote crazy and then come back and tell you that they've been exposed to some satanic stuff, that Hollywood and just that whole entertainment industry is demonic, and that there's, how many times do you have to see it before somebody is like, well, yeah, I think there's some shit happening? You know what I'm saying? We're watching, you know, we saw what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. We saw what happened with Harvey Weinstein. We seen what's happening with Sean Combs. Like, these things that we're seeing, these, you know, crazy perversions, these things that we're seeing that seem so horrific, if they're true, or the fact that they are true, the ones that have been proven. You have to know that these things can't be isolated. You know, and when somebody comes out and speaks about it in a way where, like, hey, like, this shit is happening, you label them crazy. The Cat Williams interview, there are just as many people who are like, wow, you know, this is crazy, he's saying all this stuff, and people that are saying he's just doing it for clicks and views and all this other stuff. And literally people that he'd been talking about, that he's talked about, things are being revealed about them. And it's just, it's not a conspiracy if it's true. You know, the idea of a conspiracy is simply just to make people, to hide the truth from them. It's a way to keep a secret. If you make a person crazy for believing something that they've actually experienced, and you're telling them that if there's no way that it's happening, and that the only way that you're going to believe it is if it happens to you, you know, if we lived our life that way, it's dangerous. You know? But again, I don't even want to characterize those things, because again, the decline and the deterioration of society is necessary. This shit is a cycle. If you believe that there is a higher power, then you must believe that this deterioration is part of the design. It has to happen. It's meant to happen. That power is why it's happening, which is why I don't necessarily subscribe to a specific religion, because a lot of times the higher power, the omnipotent one, is seen as love and all powerful, but only in a positive way. And it's like, if you're all powerful, whatever your title is, then that means that whatever we deem to be evil only exists because you allow it. And because people can't love or can't follow or can't believe or champion something that they don't love, and you wouldn't love someone who would allow you or actually put you in a position where you're gonna die, we have to create a secondary being. We have to create a, you know, from a God. We have to create from there. Here's God and here's the devil. For people to even believe what's happening, when realistically, if that was the characterization, right? Let's say that's that is the version of the story that is true. Anybody who understands that, like, is God not powerful enough to destroy the devil? Like again, like that's, I'm not disrespecting anybody's faith. What I'm saying is, let's have an honest conversation about what it is that we're talking about and why we talk about it the way we do, and being enlightened is simply just opening your eyes and looking and actually having an honest conversation about what it is that's going on around us. And sometimes two things can be true that are opposite. You can be enlightened and choose to believe something that is not really an enlightened process. Those things exist. But again, big picture. This existence in the cycle has to deteriorate for it to be reborn. So this craziness that's being revealed, these revelations that are happening within the natural order of things, and if we say that nature is divine and divine is of God, then that means God is nature. If these things are happening and they're supposed to be happening, then these horrors that we're seeing are necessary to the decline of this existence for whatever's coming next. That's scary to say. It's even scarier to embrace. It's even scarier to, we're cogs in a wheel. So even that huge understanding doesn't change what I am to the process. I'm still gonna continue on the path that I was meant to be on. The understanding that, it's almost like these things are for our earthly comfort. It's like to soothe our consciousness, right? Even though I really feel like if people tap in, they know what's actually happening. They understand that it's necessary. They just don't like it. Like, it's a perspective type of thing. Like, I think that's even part of the reason why, these activist movements that I believe are necessary don't have the same effect now that they had back then, because people are in a space where if they can't see the change that they want and they can't be given credit for the change that they want while they're alive, how many people are willing to die for what they believe in? How many people are willing to die, for the future to be better? That was their contribution. Most people in this generation, they're like, I want to see the change that I'm going to be. And I want to be acknowledged for my contribution to that change. Because if I'm not, then what am I doing it for? It's not until you have children where you realize that you are living for something beyond you. Their legacy is the play. Like, legacy is the thing. But even now, that's even deteriorating. Again, this decline is it's almost inevitable. Like, it almost feels like there's nothing that you can do to actually stop what's coming. The best thing is to acknowledge it. And if you want to make it more comfortable, be a better person. But, if your path is predetermined, some people are just created to be a catalyst for the downfall of humanity. They serve a purpose. So I'm not championing, and I don't have sympathy for what we consider monsters. If somebody did something to my daughter, I'm not going to be like, well, you're part of the process. I'm going to bust your ass. I'm going to kill you. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not immune to the natural thoughts and feelings and reactions that humans have. I don't think it defies nature for me to feel that way, but also acknowledge that shit's necessary. And it's fucked up to say, but like that's just what I believe. Like this shit is not accidental. And if we believe that this isn't our first go round generational wise, like energy actually doesn't die, that energy is just, moved around and it's recycled, then we have to know that these things are happening, and they've happened before, and they're gonna happen again. And I can just keep going, and hopefully this didn't seem like a lot of rambling, but I'm looking at the conversations that are on television and on the internet and on social media, and I just feel like people aren't telling the truth for a lot of reasons. And I think it's a disservice. It's very noisy. It's very annoying to me because, we're having these conversations and it's like there's implied ignorance, there's implied arrogance, again, all necessary for the decline of society. But me being where I'm at, it's almost like how are people surprised that this is actually happening, that this is part of these things, when it either Donald Trump, whoever he is, whatever he is, and however he's viewed, Puff, freaking Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, like Jerry Lee Lewis, didn't he? I think he married his daughter or something. Woody Allen, like all these people are doing all these crazy ass things. You know what I'm saying? And when I say crazy, I just mean that they're not conducive to growth. They're conducive to deterioration. A person who was born with all of the anatomy of a male, who says I identify as a female, and therefore can and is not going to engage in sexual intercourse with a female because he believes that he's a female or identifies as a female and will only have intercourse with another male. That is now a place where a baby is not going to be born. That's it. That means, in the grand scheme of things, that's one less opportunity to further this existence with this generation. Doesn't make that person an evil person. That's just the fact. Until man decides, hey man, we're gonna figure out how to transplant uteruses and that weirdo shit, like just like robotics, fusing robotics with human flesh, right, to help preserve life or to give life to, in a way, give function to something that was not functional, to augment it, right? Yes, in the moment for that person, it's heroic and it gives them, whatever they need, but it is leading to a place where now your flesh is no longer necessary. There's a movie with Bruce Willis, I forgot the name of it, but you gotta check it out. It's basically where people exist and they have living avatars, like outside human clones that live their life. They just do everything that they're doing. They do it inside, and they have this, I think there's this halo that they put on their head that gives them all the sensations of what they're experiencing outside, but it's not really them. They're really inside, while all these things are physically happening to their avatar outside. Surrogates. It's crazy, but that's where we're headed. When you're talking about the metaverse, and you got these goggles where you're outside or you're somewhere where you have access to all this stuff in the computer. When people are talking about, yeah, they can steal your information out of the sky, how could they give you a pair of goggles where you can see information in the thin air and manipulate it like you're on a computer, but you don't believe that they can steal your information out of the air, that your information is literally not in the atmosphere? Like, it's crazy the points that we don't connect, the dots that we don't connect together, just because it doesn't fit our narrative for that moment. But it's literally the same thing that we've been talking about in another area, negatively or positively. And that's what I feel like we're at right now. I feel like we know that evil exists. We know that these things happen. And we're only willing to accept the fact that this is something sinister systemically when it's convenient to the conversation. But when we want to be dismissive and, oh no, this person is crazy, there's no way that this is happening, right? Then we're gonna change the narrative and dismiss what we just accepted and promoted as the cause for these horrific things that are happening. We just said that it was that exists, that there is an entity of evil and demonic power and energy in the entertainment system, and that's why this happened. But then in another instance, we'll be like, no, that's a conspiracy. Why are you talking like that? I.e. Cat Williams. I.e. anybody, I'm not sure about other entertainers, but I know there's been quite a few black entertainers who have spoken out about what they feel are intentional, unnatural things that are promoted and championed in Hollywood. People have proclivities and they want you to participate, and they hold your livelihood in their hands, and they leverage that to get you to participate. And if as soon as somebody says it, it's like there's no way that that's happening until you see it, and then that's the isolated incident. And it's amazing to me. So I'm gonna get off the soapbox because I could keep going, but I don't think this is necessarily the year of the truth, but we are being made privy in a way and to a degree that we haven't in the past, and it's starting to get more difficult for people to ignore and spin into conjecture. So I say pay attention and acknowledge what's really happening. Till the next time. Also, I would like to say, before I end this all the way, I understand that there are anomalies within this existence. And so any of the things that I spoke on that sounded absolute, I understand that they're not necessarily absolute. This existence, the universe, is about balance. So those things that are anomalies inevitably will become normalized or become normal, not simply through just acceptance, but by the numbers with which they exist, until eventually they become the majority and the balance shifts that way. And again, I stand by what I said. Now, I'm sure that there are going to be medical advances, and I'm sure there will be people who, in the case of, let's say, human sexuality, there are going to be people who want to have children and they decide to sexually, interact for the purpose of procreation, or, use science and artificial insemination and, going towards cloning and all of these other things that are not necessarily designed, the natural design from the time frame prior to those things being options. It will definitely, life as we know it will be changed. It will be different. And the progenesis of life, like the actual creation of new life, will be different as we know it, but again, that's what humans do. We try to defy nature. Again, it's the ending of a period, ending of an era, ending of it's, the star closing in and collapsing on itself, creating a black hole to then explode again, Big Bang, into a new star. Like, it's inevitable. And I want to say another thing. I would like to take back the apology that I started out this recording with, because I don't apologize for my opinion, and I can't control how my words, no matter how carefully I try to express myself and how little I am attempting to devalue or belittle another person's existence. I think throughout this pod, I've spoken highly of the legitimacy and the necessity of the things that I spoke about. But there's nothing for me to apologize for. And, the comments are open. Please like, subscribe, turn the notifications on. If you want to interact and I'm active. If you have something to say and you want to have a discussion, like, I'm with it. Like, hopefully these topics or these things that I'm speaking on, I'm not speaking on them in a way that puts people in a space where they don't want to actually have a conversation about it, because that's what I'm doing. I'm having a conversation with myself, and I'm just sharing that with you, and I would love to be able to interact and have conversations with you people out there that choose to listen to the podcast. I definitely am not in a space where I don't want to engage. Like, perspective is everything. All right. Bye.